Hi there. Welcome to Tea with the Druid 135, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. Emer Burke here. Apologies, I got the number wrong last week. Just checking in to see what kind of a week you've had. I've had a wonderful time while I was on a road trip up in Northern Ireland and visiting absolutely wonderful, magical, sacred sites. And so it's great to be back here again. Hi from this Percival from Amsterdam. Lovely to see you. Hi, Mervyn. Good evening to you. So just hi from Michigan, Brian, Susie from Ireland, somebody from Poland, Taiwan. Wow, that's fast. That's far. Kat Rose from California. Wonderful. Anya from Cork. Welcome. Great to see you. And Anna from Rio de Janeiro. Hi, Valentina from Glastonbury. And Julia from London. Great. Barbara from Germany. Hi, Danny from France. And Roland. Hi, how are you? It's great to see you all. Lovely. So I hope you enjoyed Gail's story last week. It's just wonderful to have storytellers from all over the globe, members of the order, being able to tell stories. Anyway, so tonight's story it's an old story, but I think it is a story also for these times, as many of these stories have. What's wonderful about stories is that they have a universality as well as a long shelf life, should we say. So let me begin. Aengus Og, the Celtic god of love. Not only was the Celtic god of love, he was loved by everybody who knew him. He had golden curly hair and eyes, a deep green, and a smile that just melted the heart of anyone who saw it. And wherever Aengus walked, the flowers, they would just burst into bloom. And when he'd pass the crops in the fields, well, they would ripen. And the cows, well, they gave the sweetest of milk whenever they saw him or whenever they heard his sweet voice. And then the birds. Well, he had a golden voice. And it brought joy and peace and healing to anyone who heard it. Not only for humans and animals, but the birds. So whenever he would sing, the birds would sing back. And I was heard it said that it was like a choir, the sweetest of choirs, when Aengus would go off walking along the countryside, singing and singing with the birds. Now, Aengus lived with his mother, Boann, the goddess Boann, who gives her name to the River Boyne, and to his father, Andaya, the good god, sometimes known as Uki Olahar. And they lived in Brú na Bóinne, which today is known as Newgrange, and I'm sure many of you have visited, and well worth a visit it is indeed. Now, all was well in those times, the island of Ireland. But then some kind of dark shadow came over Aengus. Like a depression, but some strange thing that all he wanted to do and all he could do was lie in bed, becoming weaker and weaker and sicker and sicker. So needless to say, Boann and Andaya were very, very worried about their son, and they called all the Mná Fasa, all the wise women, the Fir Fasa, the wise men, the Livlia, the herbalists, the healers, to see if they could diagnose what was wrong with Aengus Og and then come up with a remedy. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't fathom his illness. And Aengus would say, just leave me be. All I want to do is sleep. Sleep brings me comfort, and then it does not. For I twist and turn, and I wake and I'm unrested. And he became sicker and sicker and weaker and weaker. But then the flowers no longer bloomed. And the crops, well, they withered in the field. And the cows, they stopped producing their sweet milk. And the birds, they no longer sang. So not only were Boan and Andaya worried for their son, they were worried for the well-being of the island of Ireland. And then one day, this very wise druid came along, and she came to visit Boan and Andaya. And as she entered Brú na Bóinne, they welcomed her and said, "Please, can you have a look at our son? Can you tell us what ails him? We are desperate. We have had the best healers in the land come, and nobody can help him." So she went in to the bedchamber where Angus Og was lying there. And all she did was took one look at him, and she said, "Ah, Joaquin," meaning little son, "sure, I know what ails you. You have the look of a man who is suffering from unrequited love." And with that, Angus Og, as weak as he was, sat up and he said, "That's exactly what ails me. I sleep all I want to sleep because in my dreams, this beautiful woman comes to me. And she has long golden hair and eyes as blue as the sky at midsummer, and skin as white as swan feathers, and lips as red as yewberries. And she smiles to me, and I love her dearly. And I reach out my hand to her. And each time I do, she smiles, but then she pulls back and she disappears. Night after night, she comes to me in my dreams, but she always walks away. Who is she? I cannot live without her. I am dying for the want of her love. Can you tell me, wise druid, who she might be? I don't want to live if I cannot have her in my life." So the wise woman said, "Well, I'm afraid I can't answer that question, but I do know somebody who might know. Bóv Jarog. Actually, if there's anyone who'll know the identity of this young woman, it'll be Bóv Jarog." Now, Bóv Jarog was one of the kings of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and he had his dwelling place. Now, she is an old Irish word, meaning it's the dwelling place of the Tuatha Dé Danann. And he had his she on what is now known as Sliabh na Mán. It's just an hour from here, the Mountain of the Women. Of course, it wasn't called that then. So it was agreed that the druid and Angus Og would set off the next day to visit Bóv Jarog. And for 3 days and 3 nights they walked. And when they got to the she of Bóv Jarog, he came down to welcome them warmly. Now, he loved nothing better than entertaining people. And he served, as they say, nua gach bí shan gach chi, the freshest of food and the oldest of drink. And he had his bards playing, telling stories and entertaining his guests. And he said, "Well, what brings you to my she?" And they told him the story about this beautiful woman that was appearing to Angus Og in his dreams, with her beautiful long golden hair and her eyes as blue as the sky at midsummer, and her skin as white as the feathers of swans, and lips as red as yewberries. "Ah, I do indeed know the identity of this young woman. You speak of Caer Iverve, Caer Yewberry. She is a daughter of one of the kings of Munster, but she has been put under an enchantment by a wicked sorcerer because she refused his attentions. So, as a result, she is condemned to spend half her life as a swan and the other half as a human. I don't care," says Angus Og. "I will accept her as she is. I cannot go on living if I do not have the love of that woman in my life. Where can I find her?" So Bóv Jarog says, "Well, Caer lives in Loch an Béal Dragon, the lake of the dragon's mouth, high up in the Galtee Mountains. Today it's known as Loch Muskry. We have to go." And as it was near Samhain, and Samhain time is a good time to visit these places. And the next day they set off. And for 3 days and 3 nights they walked. Although Angus was very weak and sick, he was energized by the hope that he would meet his true love. And they walked through forests, across rivers, up hills, down into valleys, until they came to the foothills of the Galtee Mountains. in a place called Rusadrihid. That place is still there today. And then they began to walk up the mountain, through a forest of oak and ash. And although it was winter time, the rowan trees still had their berries, and they walked along a path which ran beside a little stream. And they walked up and up through this forest until they came out onto open moorland. What a desolate place. Angus looked around, and all he could see was the dull browns of the bog and the dull grey of the sky. Nothing else to be seen or heard, except the call of the ravens, who were the gatekeepers of this place. And he still walked and walked and walked, and he could see in the distance some cliffs. And that was a sign that maybe Lucan Bealdragon was there. And they kept walking and walking and walking, and the druid and Bóv Jarrag giving him a bit of encouragement. But he kept walking, and he began to lose hope. Hope of ever finding Lucan Bealdragon, losing hope of ever finding Care, his true love. And just as he was about to give up, they passed huge boulders, and just as they passed them by, there before them was Lucan Bealdragon, like a big cauldron at the top of the mountain. Down he ran. He got that last bit of energy. He ran down ahead of the druid and Bóv Jarrag, down along the path, till he came to the little sandy beach on the shores of the lake. And he's looking around, looking to see if he can find Care. And the lake was a dark grey, a more desolate place you couldn't be. And the dark grey cliffs ahead of him, and he's looking in vain. Looking and looking, but no sign of Care. And again, just as he's beginning to lose hope, over on the horizon, he sees 9 swans coming towards him, all joined by a silver chain. And then to his joy, the lead swan breaks away from the others, comes towards him, and flies 3 times over the lake, and then flies closer and closer, and he watches her outstretched wings as she comes closer and closer, and then watches as her webbed feet touch the surface of the water. And as she lands, she transforms into a beautiful woman, the woman of his dreams, with the long golden hair and the eyes as blue as the sky at midsummer, and skin as white as swan feathers, and lips as red as yewberries. Care, Care, you've come to me. Oh. And he smiles, and she smiles back, and he reaches out to take her hand. But as soon as he does, she pulls back, steps back into the water, takes to the air, because she transforms back into a swan again. Angus is devastated. How can I have met her only to have lost her again? And he calls out to her, Care, Care, please, I love you. I cannot go on living without your love. I need you in my life. I love you as you are. I have no wish to possess you. I have no wish to own you. I have no wish to control you. But I accept you and love you, whether you are a swan or whether you're a human. Know this, I don't want to go on living if I cannot have you in my life. And then a second time he says, I promise you, Care. Please come to me. I need your love in my life. I will never own you. I will never possess you. I will never control you. But I will love you as you are. I will accept you, be you a swan or a human. But know this, I cannot live without your love. No response. And a third time he said, Care, please, please come back to me. For I love you as you are. I will never control you. I will never possess you. I will never own you. I accept you as a swan. I accept you as a human, as you are, and love you for who you are. Please come back to me. And then he watched as she flew 3 times again over the lake and flew towards him. And he watched as her outstretched wings, and she flew towards him closer and closer. And then her webbed feet touched the surface of the lake, and she transforms back into her human form. And this time she smiles at him and she looks deeply into his eyes, and it's as if they've known each other forever. And she smiles again and she reaches out her hand to him. And he reaches out his hand to her. And she takes his hand in hers. And she pulls him towards her into the lake. And he willingly goes. And then they are both transformed into swans. And they take to the air. And they are joined together with a golden chain. And they fly 3 times over the lake. And they begin to sing their love song. And the flowers begin to bloom again. And the crops awaken in the field and become ripe. And the cattle, when they hear their love song, begin to produce sweet milk again. And the birds begin to sing. And for 3 days and 3 nights, Angus, Og and Care fly around the island of Ireland, singing their love song. And all who heard their song fell into the deepest of sleeps, where they dreamed of love and peace and healing and tranquility. They dreamed of transformation and acceptance of themselves and acceptance of others, where all were welcome and all are loved in their own essence, in their own being. And at the end of the 3rd night, they flew back to Brú na Bóinne, where they are to this very day. And they still sing their song of love, non-possessive love and acceptance to all who are willing to hear. So now I invite you to come on a little journey. So as you're sitting there in front of your screens, if you like, close your eyes and just become comfortable. And be aware of your connection with the floor beneath you. And begin to focus on your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Remember, with every in-breath, there are possibilities, and with every out-breath, there's a letting go. Breathing in and breathing out. And now I'd like you to imagine that you're at the foothills of a mountain, about to enter a forest. And I invite you to enter that forest. You can see the path before you. And begin to walk along that path, noticing the trees around you, noticing the colors, being aware of the sounds of the wind in the trees, maybe the sounds of birdsong, and the smells. See if you can taste what it's like in this forest. Be aware of the textures of the trees, but also the texture of the earth beneath you as you begin to walk. Feeling the connection of the earth beneath your feet, the sky above you, and the trees around you, and feel them welcoming you and holding you as you continue along that path up the mountain. And then you walk. And walk along that path, and you come to a clearing. It's the end of the forest, and it's now open moorland. Notice the colors and how they've changed, how the sounds and the smells and the textures have changed. And continue walking along that path. Until you come to a huge boulder. And you can hear the call of the ravens, the guardians of this place. And as you pass this boulder and go around the corner, you will see before you Look on Bale Dragon, the lake of the dragon's mouth. You begin to walk down the path towards the lake shore. And you arrive on the sandy beach. And you see the cliffs ahead of you. And it's dark and it's dreary. And the dreariness of the sky is matched by the dreariness of the lake. And you stand there. And then suddenly there is a break in the clouds. And you can see some blue sky and the sun shining through. You get this feeling of hope. And then you notice on the horizon a swan. One swan coming towards you. And you watch as this swan flies 3 times around this lake. And then you notice that the swan is flying towards you. And you watch its outstretched wings. And you watch as it extends its webbed feet, coming closer and closer until it touches the surface of the lake, just in front of you. And as the swan lands, the swan transforms into a human. This being looks at you with love and acceptance in their eyes. And you look at them and it's as if you've known each other forever. This person smiles to you and stretches out their hand to you. And you reach back and they take your hand in theirs and they pull you towards them. You step into the water and you feel yourself transformed into a swan. And you feel your outstretched wings alongside the other person who's become a swan, and you take to the air. And you're flying like you've never flown before. And it's like you both are flying as one. And you feel that sense of excitement and that sense of love and acceptance in your heart. And the ability to transform and engage in another way of being. And as you fly around this lake, you have this sense of acceptance of yourself. No matter who you are or how you are, no matter what form you take, you accept yourself and love yourself in a non-possessive way. And you have that love and acceptance for the earth and her beings, for all those you come in contact with. And you feel your heart expand. And you both sing a song of love for yourselves, a song of love for humankind, a song of love for all the beings of this planet and beyond, accepting each for who they are, whatever form they take. And enjoy that feeling of self-love, self-acceptance, and acceptance of other. And now it's time to come back. And you're flying back, the two of you, back towards the lake shore again. You sense your outstretched wings, and you can see the lake surface getting closer and closer. You stretch out your webbed feet. And the swan beside you, and you land and you both regain your human aspect. And you walk towards the sandy beach. And you turn back to this other being. And you recognize yourself in this other being, another aspect of yourself. And you smile. And this being smiles back at you. And you give thanks. Thanks for this gift that you have received. And then you say goodbye, knowing this being is always there for you. And you watch as they become swan again and take to the sky. And watch as they fly 3 times over the lake and then beyond, over the horizon. And your heart is full and glad with what you've experienced and full of gratitude for this experience. And you begin to say goodbye to the lake, Loch an Béal Dragon, the lake of the dragon's mouth. And you walk up the path, up towards the boulder, and begin to walk down the mountain, down through that moorland, hearing the ravens call to you. And then you begin to walk into the forest, down the path beside the little stream, until you come to the bottom. And at the bottom, you turn around to look at the forest. You give thanks to those trees. And you allow your awareness of the forest to fade. And bring your awareness of your physical body here and now in front of the screen, feeling the floor beneath your feet, being aware of the ceiling above you and the walls around you. Take a big stretch, deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I'm afraid to click on comments, so I can't see. I hope that was okay for you, and that you were able to connect. Stories of many interpretations. So I hope how you interpret this would be of use to you. So we have a new guest next week. It'll be Dave the Bard, and I believe he has a story for you. And then the good news is that Philip will be back for the month of August, and I'm sure you'll be delighted to have him back again. I look forward to seeing you in September when I'll be back, maybe for more stories. So till then, Iwa, good night, and I look forward to looking at your comments after this, and I have my tea. Good night for now.